Hello and welcome to another episode of Garden Today with Rose, and I am Rose. So today it is Friday, June 10th, and I decided to get out here early before work and do a quick tour of the backyard garden. It's pretty early. It's about 7 a.m. in the morning. And I am in zone 6A for those that are interested. That's Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I am gardening in a suburban backyard. So my lot is very small. The whole lot, including the house, is about half an acre, and I have converted a good amount of the space to garden beds and places for all kinds of yummy edibles. So I'm gonna start over here on this side. This area, the part closest to the fence is what I call my berry garden. This up front are just extra containers and grow bags that I have put stuff in. These first 6 here I just recently planted up. These are my asparagus starts, and the reason why I planted them so late is because I just got them in the mail. So there are purple and green asparagus in there, and it's already sprouting up. So the next section here are all tomatoes. I just got done thinning these bins out because I ended up direct sowing a lot of my tomatoes and peppers because my seedlings did not do very well this year for some odd reason. They just kind of, half of them died off after I planted them out. So I direct sowed, and then I ended up with obviously a ton of seedlings. And so, because I overseeded to make sure I got something. So I just got done separating some of those and thinning them out, and some I couldn't bear to throw out. So that's why I have all these little grow bags sitting in front. Those are individual tomato plants, either little cherry ones or Roma tomatoes. So all of these bins are tomatoes, and then there are marigolds in the center of the big tubs. Right here, the next little section of these little 6 grow bags, I believe it is, those are all sweet potatoes, 6 or 7. So all my sweet potatoes are in bags this year. They seem to be doing okay. This next little bin is all peppers, either hot or sweet or a combo, I'm not sure. Next are huckleberries, which are getting pretty huge. And then these are, the remainder of these containers are tomatoes. So I believe there may be a couple of cherry ones mixed in, along with some full-size ones. So it's just a variety of tomatoes. And here in the large bed, which is about 5.5 rows, I'm not sure the exact measurements, but I think about 50 feet deep. I'm not sure how wide, less wide than deep, obviously. But this is where I grow the majority of my vegetables, in this area here, and everything's looking great. These first few plants are tomatoes, and I believe I got these starts from Walmart. They have had, and still have probably, a really good deal on starts for tomatoes and peppers. They were like little 2-inch sales, 2x2 sales at least, and they were $3.48 for a pack of 4. And they were mixed varieties. So, 4 different kinds of tomatoes, 4 different kinds of sweet peppers, 4 different kinds of hot peppers. So I'm happy. Alright, so 4 tomato plants. Next are brassicas. Next, by the trellis, are my winter squash. There's a variety of different ones that I've grown before last year here that tend to store fairly well. So I will have, hopefully, squash until next spring. So there's one watermelon plant at the very end. I believe it's an Orangilla watermelon. Here on this next row at the very back, I have another brassica plant. I'm not sure if that's cabbage or cauliflower, broccoli, one of the two. That's the whole outer row is going to be brassicas. Up against the trellis are all my melons, watermelons, and honeydew type melons, and they're up against the trellis so I can have something to tie them to because they'll get pretty heavy. Coming over here to the next row, These are all celeriac and some celery mixed in. It's mostly celery, though I really like the celeriac root in many dishes, and so I got quite a bit of that. I'm sure I interplanted something in the middle of those two rows because it was looking pretty sparse, and whenever you have open ground, you're going to have weeds. So I tried to plant as much of the area as possible. There were a few onions that ended up over here. These are probably ones that I grew from seed that I just put down because either I had extras or I had some blank spaces there. There's even some pepper plants thrown in here. I came out and direct seeded a few Anaheims and Cubanelles and things like that. The rest of this is mostly leeks, which seem to be doing pretty well. It took them a long time to start growing for sure. And then I did plant flower seeds in the middle. There may be a lavender plant in the middle of here as well. And like I said, various flower seeds. So that's that row. The next row here in the front, these are all onions which seem to be flowering or wanting to flower soon. There, the tops of those have bulbed up, but they're growing strong. Some of them are close together. I did not, I ended up with maybe two in one hole in a lot of places, but they're still bulbing up, and they'll still be good enough for me and more than enough. There's some yard-long asparagus beans planted right next to that little arch trellis. That's a lightweight trellis. It doesn't hold much, so not much can grow up it other than maybe a cucumber or some beans. These are all potatoes, white potatoes. There's at least 4 different varieties here probably, and I can't tell you all the varieties. I cannot recall. There is signage in there in this mass. But those are all white potatoes, and they seem to be doing well. I am a big fan of potatoes, and some of the varieties can store fairly well. So that's what's going on there. And then we get to this final full-size row, and in the front here are summer squash. So, last year, my summer squash plants were pretty prolific. I had zucchinis coming out of mirrors, so I didn't want that many this year. So I did not plant as many summer squash plants as I have before, but there are maybe 3 or 4 more of those yard-long beans going up the other side of that trellis. Here are 2 or 3 eggplants, which struggled. Those I started from seed. They're growing though, so we'll see what happens with those. Another big, bushy summer squash, and these are most of my peppers. I have peppers scattered in different places. Because like I said, last year the bunnies ate a lot of my peppers, eggplants, and tomato plants, and so I have spread things out. So those are peppers inside that fenced off area, sweet and hot. Then I have, I think, some marigolds interspersed in there, along with a bunch of fennel bulbs. My peas have finally started to flower. I don't have any peas yet, but they're flowering. There's a huge dahlia, I believe that is, or something like that, that I put in there as well. But hopefully I can have peas before it gets too hot. Then back here I had some empty space. Weeds were growing, so I threw down some baby bok choy seeds. So that's a miniature type of bok choy. Here's cucumber plants under this other little round trellis. Not too many. I have a few back here by this black trellis, cucumbers as well. Looks like I need to thin those. There may be a couple too many. And then 2 over here. I also threw more seeds here in this empty spot, and those are probably some kind of leafy green, maybe collards or kale or something like that. Just to have something compete with the weeds. And this last row I call a half a row because it is very narrow and it's right up against the fence. It has this black tarp weed barrier stuff on it, and I don't pull that stuff up. That is way too much work. So I usually will just plant in the holes that I have already cut there. Last year I had corn and sunflowers in this row, which is perfect because they're tall and skinny. This year it's all mostly dahlia pom-poms in these holes until you get to the very front, and then there are a few herbs. There's some basil, oregano, thyme, rosemary, and they all seem to be growing, so they're doing okay. These are all raspberries over here in the berry section. I mean, I started with maybe 6 plants and it turned into this mass. So this thing is prolific, but I have yet to see a berry. It's actually kind of pushing out there are a couple of tiny blueberry uh, bushes thrown in there that I just planted, and they're very small, so you maybe can't see them, but the raspberries are kind of pushing them out. There's, I believe, some thyme thrown in there. My strawberries, the ones that were left over from last year, have some small berries on there. There was some holes in a couple of the berries that were on before, and so I don't know if it was slugs or what was getting to them. So I lifted them up, tried to elevate them off the ground. So I put them on these little pedestals to try to save the berries. These are more tomato seeds that I direct sowed, and I probably need to come in and thin those a little bit. There's a few too many. These are peppers, and that may be a hot pepper, cayenne. I think my mindset was that I was going to try to make hot sauce. I've only made hot sauce once or twice. I don't eat hot peppers, but I do like hot sauce, so we'll see. And then over here, mulberry bushes. This whole section of we have blueberries over here, raspberries, just berries, aronia berries, currants, and I'm probably missing something, gooseberries. So there are varieties that are planted in the ground. In these bags, we have more peppers. This one looks like a sweet one. That might be the pimento pepper. And then more tomatoes. Seedlings that need to be thinned. 4 little clusters. Let's see. This huge thing in the center, I believe, is an oregano. Yeah, it's just getting pretty large. And then there's a little blueberry plant in front of that. The herbs are definitely taking off, but those are perennials. I believe most of those came back from last year. More berry bushes. Here in these big grow bags. More berry bushes. And these big grow bags are the new strawberry roots that I got in the mail. So I put them all in grow bags, and then I will put those bags on the ground in the winter to try to protect them from the cold. That seemed to work last year. As I said, the ones that were, I put most of my strawberries in my green stalks last year, and they all died off, except for the few that were in these bags over here. So, I got some chamomile that came back from last year. This is a lemon balm. My lemon balm has been beaten by the rain, so it's kind of drooped over, laying over, but there are 2 different kinds. This is the mandarin flavor variety. Over here I planted cosmos and marigolds, and there are some berry plants grown in there as well. There's a blueberry. No. I can't remember if that's a currant bush I just planted, but here's a blueberry with berries on it. Pepper is a variety. I believe that's a mix that I just direct sowed as well. More berry plants. And in this grow bag are more of the yard-long asparagus, yard-long beans, just like a green bean that can be up to a foot long, I believe. Alright, over here in this corner, I did move the lemon balm way over there in the back because it was just too big, so I chopped it down and moved it. The purple coneflower, I cut that back. I cut back the comfrey, and there's a marshmallow plant. There's cha-cha-chas, curly parsley, all of those things over here. And this whole 2 rows came back basically from last year. Yeah. And over here are several of the tiny little aronia berries. It's hard to see them. They only get to be about 1 foot to 1.5 feet tall. But I have at least 4 or 5 of those in this area. Another blueberry bush. And let me tell you, this one was $12 from Menards. And as you can see, I believe it's Blue Crop. But as you can see, it's loaded with berries. And I mean, it's only been in the ground for like 3 weeks. So that's impressive. It's doing quite well. Alright, let me get out of this section. Oh, the parsnips that are from last year that came back. I still am waiting to pick those into some of the foliage starts to die back or something. So let me get out of here so I can speed this video up a little bit.
Alright, let me change up the microphone. My little portable one has gone dead, so I'm gonna have to use the one on the camera. Sorry for the change in the sound, but gotta improvise here. These are elderberry bushes. I have 2 of those. They have yet to flower. I did underplant with some collard greens just because there was too many weeds growing in there, so I need to cover that soil up. These are the green stalks that are sitting out, and that's because this is stuff I'm harvesting more often, or I should be. So this has a lot of herbs in it. Let me get back. Lots of herbs in it, as well as lettuce. So walk around it, maybe you can get a better view. It's pretty full. It's pretty lush. And I was concerned that the greens weren't going to have time to grow because it was so cold and they weren't doing anything. Then it got hot. So I thought they were all going to bolt as cool weather crops do. But they're looking pretty good. I do need to come get some of this lettuce and eat it. And some of these are an Asian green that I just like cook like collards or something. Stir fry them or something like that. This one has mostly rutabaga in it, I believe. There are some flowers at the top. This looks like yarrow and some St. John's wort and some Swiss chard, some kind of chard, nasturtiums. Look at those. It's so full. I haven't looked at this in a few days, and it grows so fast. In one night, it'll grow a couple of inches, it seems, things. So I got some rosemary in there too. This large bed over here is where I had all radishes. I've taken out most of the radishes. Oh, actually I have extra potato plants here too, but I've taken out most of the radishes. There's still a few left because I can't eat. I can only eat so many radishes at once. And in its place, I got from my local nursery some starts for Kohlrabi, which I really like. And I've had a hard time growing my own from seed, so I thought I'd try that. And I didn't get many, as you can see. But there's Kohlrabi, maybe 8-10 of those, and peppers, pimento peppers, just because I had some extras. And there's one there already forming. And there's one lonely collard green plant there because I had some extra of those as well. And then over here are the potatoes, which keep trying to flower, and I keep removing the flowers because I want the energy to grow into the potato, the roots, not the flowers, you know. But they're lush. Look how green and lush. I have been on my fertilizing game. I've been fertilizing every 2 weeks about, which for me is good because usually I put fertilizer, the long-acting stuff, in the dirt, but I don't usually do much additional. I don't get around to it. But I've been good about it this year, and I've needed to probably with all the rain because it's just washing all the nutrients out. My deck, I am about to power wash and stain and seal my deck, and I'm doing blue this time. I'm going to do a navy blue, which is unusual probably, but I think it'll look really good. And once I stain it navy blue, I'm going to put this bright green chair on the deck. Right now I just have my little swinging hammocky chair, so I'm going to put that on the deck, which will look good against the blue. And then that swinging hammocky chair I'm keeping because that chair is very comfortable, but I'm going to recover the cushion. I got some floral fabric that's a contrast to the bold colors. That'll soften it up. So that is my plan for the next 2 weeks. So I got to move everything off the deck, all these big pots, all these planters, and get that done. So where was I? I was headed to the grape section. Oh, and the trees. The trees are looking glorious. I probably should go over there. I don't know if I covered those last time, but I just trimmed them all back because, you know, I'm trying to keep them dwarf size, so I have to trim them in midsummer. All right, that's the second elderberry bush with collards growing under it. And those here. And these are berries, this whole front row. Some of them have flowers. Let me go around. No fruit yet. Some of them are obviously still quite small, but some have flowers, so I'm hoping I get a handful of something. Something this summer. Let me see that. And this has what looks like maybe fruit forming from the baby flowers. These are all grapes. And I just trimmed all these back. They were growing crazy. And I want the energy to go into trying to plump up these clusters that are here. So I had to stop that vine. The vines were going crazy. They wouldn't stop growing. So I came and trimmed everything up. So a couple might not make it. That one there, I think is a gunner. That might have been a Concord. I'm not sure. But I did plant extras as the ones that didn't look so great to make sure I had something. Yeah, so that's the whole grape section. So you can see there's several grapevines with grapes on them. And then over here in this little green stalk section is garlic and lots of bush beans, lots of beets and turnips, and some herbs and some flowers. So that's what's going on in these 6 green stalks. And oh, this is a horrible shadow here. This little bed over here is all corn and flowers this year. I'm trying to find an angle where there isn't this awful glare. I can't find one. It's just gonna have a shadow with the fence and everything. But there's a couple of volunteer onions that came out of, I guess from last year, came back there, and I'm not taking them out. But there are a bunch of flowers, carnations back there, some other flowers. Stock is here, which is in bloom. I don't think I'll grow stock again. It's a pretty flower, but it's a lot of real estate, and it's not fantastic. It's not that showy, but you know, I like flowers, so. Let's see, more flowers here. I can tell you which ones those are. Those look like hollyhocks right here. Those might be hollyhocks. All of that back there is corn. Those stalk looking things. That's all corn. And then this row is all sunflowers, I believe. In the back is sunflowers. In the middle here are some other flowers. I don't know if those carnations or what. Statice. It's up here. It reminds me of dandelions. That's Statice. It hasn't bloomed. The ranunculus still growing. Looks like it has a ways to go before I get any blooms. I did plant a purple colored lilac back here because I got a set. It was a purple one and a yellow one. I did the yellow one up front, a light yellow, and then the purple one back here since I didn't have any more room for purple up there. My Yarrow is doing okay. There's a few annuals here, but this is mostly the leftover bulbs from my spring bulbs, which are not died down yet, so that's why I haven't cut them back. There's some little yellow bulbs that I planted. I could not tell you what they are, but they're various colors. Some are yellow, some are purple, and some were, I think, pink or magenta. They are actually pretty, so I'll leave them. I don't know what they are. There's 2 white peonies back there. They're still very small. There's flowers in all these pots that have yet to get big enough. And ranunculuses in the window boxes. Come on, Bella. And then really just one last section that I want to show you, and that's the trees. Let me go over here on the other side of the shed. Like I said before, one of my fig trees I think is a goner here, which is a bummer. That was an Italian honey fig. And this one actually is growing leaves, so that's pretty good. I underplanted some flowers, some daisies, because bare soil equals weeds. Over here more spent tulips, and then there's a red peony that's actually growing because I got a set of like 3, and 2 of the 3 died. So that red one here is growing, and then the zinnias back there are very tiny, but they are growing. But I did want to show you the trees, and I actually just cut all of a significant amount, probably 1/3 of each one of these off, because they were getting bushy and big. But the idea is to keep them at a dwarf size. So, you know, that's not more than 6 feet. So it's time to prune. None of these back here flower this year. It's much shadier in the backyard with the fence and all. So, and I did plant these same time as the ones in the front, maybe even a little earlier. But they are leafing out. They are getting much bigger. These were all bare roots, meaning they were just like a twig, a stick with roots on it, and nothing else. And I planted them all, cut them all to knee height, so they were, you know, 2-3 feet. And this is what's happened in this is year 2. And I put them in last spring, and this is the 2nd year. So I'm pleased with the progress. Definitely pleased with the progress. So I'm looking forward to fruit, maybe next summer. Alright, so that is the end of the backyard tour. I tried to keep this relatively short, but I tend to get to talking, and you know how that goes. I will be back next with a tour of the front yard. So in the meantime, happy gardening, and bye-bye.